What's up, everyone? Do not forget to leave that like and subscribe to the channel, and comment Isekai'd because in this anime you are going to see it a lot. The anime begins in a very desolate and sad place, where there is a couple who is swearing eternal love by means of the red thread of love and destiny. But suddenly, the Isekai'd appears out of nowhere to do its job of running both of them over, sending them to another world. After that, our Dazai awakens in a place that he does not know. He looks around thinking that it must be the world of the dead, since he just died, and furthermore, it also possesses a very Western style. At that moment, a voice tells him that it is not the world of the dead and introduces herself as a guide of that world named Annette. She shows him that that world is very different from the one he came from, and that he was chosen to arrive at that place. Suddenly, a dragon passes by his side and Annette comments that that is the land called Zauberberg, which unfortunately is plunged into darkness, and that he is going to be the chosen hero to illuminate it with his light. He regrets having failed and ends up taking an excessive amount of tranquilizers in an attempt to commit suicide. Upon seeing him, Annette panics and purifies him with her light. When he awakens, Dazai asks her not to meddle where she was not invited, but she answers that he must stop with these foolish things, because he is a hero and needs to fulfill the mission he has in that world. Even so, Dazai does not care about that. He just wants a peaceful place to die in peace. Annette makes it clear to him that he is a chosen one. Dazai answers that he never asked for that. She asks if he by any chance did not encounter a truck, and he remembers what really happened. Therefore, she explains that that truck was the path to another world, and that this is the reason he is there. Since among all the unhappy people in the world, only those who are run over by the Isekai'd can remake their lives in this world. And that is what the transportation service between worlds is all about. She explains that if the truck went to pick him up, surely he was very unhappy in his old world. However, he was granted the opportunity to abandon his old life and be happy in this new one. The problem is that she does not understand that he only wants to die. Dazai approaches her very angrily, complaining that that truck interrupted what for him would have been the happiest moment of his life. He was going to commit a double suicide. He asks who she thinks she is to decide who is happy or not. Annette gets very shocked by his so vulgar way of speaking, and thinks that he is an ungrateful person, since he was saved from an unhappy life that would end in suicide. Even so, she is sure that he is going to change his mind when she shows him the attributes that he possesses, because all the humans who arrive in that world receive superhuman abilities. She is left in disbelief upon seeing his miserable statistics, because he possesses only 1 point of HP. Furthermore, he remains poisoned even after having been purified. She believes that there must be some logical explanation for this, and looks for some spell or special ability that he might possess, but he has nothing. He is the weakest human who has ever arrived in that world in all of history. At that moment, Dazai begins to smoke calmly and stands up to walk away. Annette observes him with much pity and tries to stop him, apologizing. She admits that it was probably a mistake to have brought him to that world, since he does not possess any possibility of surviving in such a chaotic world. He takes her hand and makes it clear that his life has always been like this, miserable, which is why he is condemned to failure in whatever world he is in. Annette becomes very sad upon seeing this and continues apologizing, but asks that he stay with her for a while, because right now he is too weak, and if he goes out in his current state, the monsters are going to kill him the moment he takes a step outside. Dazai says thank you, but speaks that he only wants to find a peaceful place where he can die. At that moment, Annette notices that he is not like the other heroes and begins to think about how she always felt proud of her work guiding outsiders from another world, since she found all of that very exciting. But at some point the humans began to become arrogant and conceited, and she began to close her heart, only praising the heroes without truly feeling it, or at least that was what she thought. Up to that moment, Dazai was already about to leave, but Annette runs after him asking that he at least accept a profession before departing. Dazai just smiles and speaks that he is a writer by birth, and does not need anything else. He says goodbye to her, which makes Annette realize that during all this time, she was waiting for the arrival of that man. After that, Dazai observes some signs with directions, but he does not understand anything of the language. Even so, he assumes that there must not be a coffee shop nearby. At that moment, he gains 5 experience points for having discovered the Great Plains of Astan. He gets irritated and asks the voice in his head to stop talking to him, because he has a very bad migraine. He ends up leveling up to level 2 and suddenly sees a commotion in the distance. So he approaches and finds a death tree that is trapping a well-endowed girl. She asks for help while she is tied up with her bustiness trapped. But Dazai only thinks about how he cannot stop seeing people with strange ears, and comments that they look very beautiful when they are on the brink of death, asking if he can write a novella inspired by her. The girl does not understand what he is talking about and begs him to save her quickly before she dies. Dazai tries to help her, but in the most indifferent way possible. Upon realizing that he cannot reach her, the girl asks if he does not have some sword or something of the sort. But there is no time for him to answer, because the tree traps him as well. The tree begins to converse with him, but he speaks that he is happy because he is going to die, while the girl explains that the lethal tree uses its power to steal the life force of its victims. She becomes sad knowing that she will die in a few minutes, unlike Dazai who wanted it to be seconds and not minutes. At that moment he begins to feel his strength fading away, and says goodbye to the short life he had, but the venom of his body ends up affecting the tree, which explodes. It begins to fall apart while he laments for not having managed to die this time. Suddenly, a voice speaks that Dazai caused 300 points of poison damage, and thus defeated the lethal tree, leveling up to level 3, which ends up surprising the cat girl, because he killed the tree, preventing it from absorbing her vital energy. Dazai continues lamenting for not being able to die in any manner, since he tried to commit suicide at least 5 times, but one after another it always ends up failing. The cat girl does not understand why he gets depressed, but she is very happy to be alive, and thanks him for having saved her. At that moment, she invites him to her house to thank him in the best way possible, and asks what his name is. Dazai answers that normally people call him sensei. The girl holds his hand, and Dazai remembers Saken, when she used to ask for the two of them to commit suicide together. He wonders if she is also in this other world. When he speaks this out loud, the cat girl answers that she is no Saken, but Dazai begins to ignore her while he walks. She follows him while he looks at the sky happily, realizing that he just found one more reason to live in this alternative world. While observing his hand, he remembers what he lived with Saken, and says that he is going to find her no matter where she is. He speaks that he wants to find her so they can commit suicide together again afterwards. On the other hand, Annette prays to the gods of Zauberberg to protect Dazai, and for him to manage to reunite with her. At that moment he enters and greets her. Annette runs in his direction, but realizes that he is with another girl and is left speechless. Dazai asks if she knows a woman named Saken, because he is looking for her. Annette gets irritated, since besides him being with another woman, he is still looking for another one. Later the two of them continue looking for Saken while going toward the girl's house. The cat girl tries to hold his hand, but Annette prevents it and slaps it away, making it clear that she cannot touch him. However, the cat girl asks what she is doing following them, and realizes that she likes her master. Annette gets embarrassed and denies it, saying that it is not like that, since she is not so impure as to have this type of attitude, and the two of them begin to argue for a long time. After that, the cat girl says that she probably wants to be with him because he is very strong enough for him to have saved her life from the lethal tree, and therefore she owes him her life. And this causes Annette to be in disbelief that they got so close, and she curses the cat girl, calling her a homewrecker cat. While they continue arguing, Dazai finds a coffin, which he considers perfect to rest a little. He says goodbye to Annette and calls the other one Tama. But the cat girl gets irritated because her name is not Tama. Annette still mocks her, saying that unlike her, she was called by her name, and after that she leaves happily, dragging the coffin. But it is so heavy that the rope ends up snapping. After that, we see a beautiful girl observing the place. Returning with Annette, she is dragging the coffin together with Tama, who is named Tama because she still has not said her name. The coffin where her beloved Dazai sleeps. Tama gets tired and screams for him to go by himself, but since there is no answer, they think that he has already kicked the bucket. However, he is sleeping deeply, dreaming of finding his beloved Saken so they can commit suicide together. Later, they arrive at the castle town of Hode, where Dazai finds it strange because that is not what he is accustomed to. At that moment, Annette says for them to go to the castle to request an audience with the king, and when they leave they end up forgetting the coffin where he was sleeping, leaving people wondering where that came from. Upon arriving at the castle, the king of Hode named Thomas and Princess Charlotte introduce themselves. The king receives them and invites them to sleep at the castle, however with one condition. He would like to hear stories from travelers, so he politely asks them to tell some pleasant stories from the trip. Dazai hears this and asks if he wants to know what it is like to sleep inside a coffin. Thomas gets very startled, thinking if that is a threat. Annette changes the subject, saying that Charlotte is very beautiful. The king comments that she is about to get married, and taking advantage of the fact that they are there, he wants to ask for an opinion on something. He orders 2 men to enter. The first is a warrior named Gomes, and the second is an errant troubadour of love named Otto. Thomas explains that lately more and more monsters are appearing because of the influence of the Dark Lord, and since he is already too old to deal with this type of problem, he decided that one of these 2 young men will be his daughter's husband and, consequently, the next king. However, the princess refuses to choose between the 2 and asks them to help decide who is the most suitable. Dazai has only 2 options, Gomes or Otto, but he prefers to say that he does not know, since they are newcomers and should not decide the future of the princess. He further says that the king is an idiot and that he should not even be king. Then he still completes by saying that someone like him, who does not deserve to live in any world, also has no right to give an opinion on anything, even though he has already spoken. The king does not like it at all, since ever since he arrived he does nothing but insult him, and the girls apologize. But when Dazai is leaving, Charlotte stays staring intently at him. Already at night everyone is sleeping, except Dazai. Annette notices this and gets up to ask who this Sakin is. But suddenly she notices that under the sheet a tail appears, and upon pulling it she finds Tama sleeping on his lap. Because of this, she hits her with a pillow, screaming that she is a shameless person for trying to sleep with her master while she is right there. Tama answers that she was just cold and wanted something to warm herself up. The 2 begin to scream at each other while Dazai gets irritated and leaves the room. Upon leaving, he finds a very bright light and decides to follow it. After walking a bit, he finds Charlotte admiring the landscape. Charlotte comments that the lake is very beautiful, but Dazai only feels like drowning in it. Charlotte gets very frightened and asks if he is so shaken up to the point of wanting to end his own life. He answers yes, but no more than her. Charlotte gets very sad and speaks that she cannot decide between the warrior Gomes and the loving Otto. Gomes arrived at the castle recently, but he is already the most valuable soldier and gained all the trust of her father. As for Otto, he is her childhood friend, and whenever she is sad he writes songs and sings to her. Lost between the 2 loves, she asks what she should do. Dazai answers that she is a very gentle girl, who worries about her father unlike him, since his life only has problems and he tried suicide several times more than he can count, disturbing the peace of his father and his family. But despite all of this, he never asked for anyone to decide how he should live his life, and advises that she herself make her decision and think about what she really wants. The next day Thomas gathers everyone again and apologizes for this, but Charlotte decided whom she is going to marry and asks them to be witnesses. Annette says that the future of the kingdom would be better if she married the warrior Gomes, while Thomas thinks that she matches more with Otto. The 2 begin to fight, but the king interrupts them and asks for Charlotte to go to the man she chose, and finally declare her decision. She walks down the red carpet determined and takes Dazai's hand, saying that the only thing she wants is to commit double suicide with him. Both the king and the others are horrified by this decision, causing Annette to faint. Charlotte explains that she spent the night thinking about the conversation they had, and realized that Otto only writes and sings for her, even when she is not even depressed, so she thinks it is not out of love, but just because he wants to test his new songs, and she also does not want to marry Gomes because he smells very bad and causes disgust. Thomas stands up trying to convince her to choose a husband, but she gets irritated and says that he is an idiot, since she does not want to get married and he must not force her to do so. Furthermore, nobody worried about what she feels, except Dazai. While caressing his hand, she speaks that she wants to commit double suicide with him. When Dazai is about to speak, suddenly Gomes takes off his helmet and begins to transform into a huge minotaur, revealing that his true name is Irakundo Gomes, and that he is a servant of the Dark Lord. He only wanted to marry her to take over the kingdom, and as soon as he became king he would deliver everything to his master. But he did not expect that the princess would notice his disguise, even though she did not notice anything at all. She just said that he is smelly and does not wear deodorant. Offended, Gomes tells everyone to shut up and speaks that he is going to kill everyone all at once. Thomas tries to wake Annette up while the soldiers try to face the monster, but they are defeated very easily. Thomas protects Annette and lands a kick on the Minotaur, saying that he will fight against him. Otto tries to strengthen her with his troubadour power, but it does not work because he only wants her to listen to his new song. She asks Dazai for help, but he is distracted by the song. Gomes goes after her, but she dodges and attacks him. When he is about to fight seriously, Dazai interrupts and asks him to please kill him first, since the two are anxious to die together and want to be hit by those huge horns of Gomes. The Minotaur does not understand anything, but he does not even care and decides to grant their request before going after the king. While Thomas gets very startled by his confidence, Tama does not want her master to die, but Dazai speaks that he does not care about what will happen afterward and just wants to die soon. Charlotte begins to feel fear, but he consoles her, speaking that dying will be the best experience of all. The Minotaur charges at them. Tama tries to prevent it, but Charlotte realizes that she does not want to die, since she still needs to protect the kingdom and her people. Dazai pushes her out of the way, speaking that she is too gentle and therefore does not serve as a suicide companion. The Minotaur is about to pierce him through, but Annette does not allow her beloved to die and grants him a powerful shield, which ends up breaking Gomes's horns. Tama takes advantage of the opening and uses her powerful wildcat strike, hitting him and launching him into the lake. After all that, the two are exhausted and Tama thanks Annette for having saved her. The two thank each other and the troubadour takes the opportunity to sing his song of friendship. Meanwhile, Charlotte observes the lake and Thomas approaches her, apologizing for having ignored and hurt her feelings during all this time, saying that he never had bad intentions. He realizes that he does not serve as a king, nor as a father, and ends up begging for her forgiveness. Therefore, Charlotte forgives him and speaks that they must communicate much more from that moment on so they can protect and bring peace to the kingdom. While Dazai observes them complaining about having survived one more day. Now Charlotte has become queen, while Annette and Tama continue carrying Dazai the whole way. At that moment he stands up to observe the castle, and they comment on how beautiful women look on the brink of death, but also when they stand firm and determined. After that we see that Annette is at level 19 and Tama at level 15, and the two are a bit tired of dragging Dazai around. He decides to rest a little. He is already at level 13 and remains poisoned, and asks if it is already time to eat, because he has a great craving to eat boiled tofu. Annette says that she only has bread, but in the next village she will get the tofu that he wants. After that they observe on the map that it would take them a few days to reach Grom, Tama's village, which is why they are going to make a stop on the way at the Temple of Satin. Tama ends up accepting, but asks what they are going to do that for. Annette explains that normally the outsiders arrive at one of the 4 temples and depart from them toward the castle of the Dark Lord. But since Dazai does not want to defeat the Dark Lord and wants to find his beloved Seiken, it will be better to visit some temples to gather information. Tama gets very irritated, saying that if he does not have luck in finding what he is looking for, perhaps he will have to travel the entire world in vain, and says that he is crazy if he thinks about doing a thing like that. Annette prefers to go on like this so that Dazai does not need to face the Dark Lord and does not get hurt. But at the same time she questions herself if by acting this way she would be becoming a terrible guide to the travelers who arrive in this world. Even so, Dazai made her see the light when she had already given up on her work, and now she considers that it is her turn to help him. Tama notices the glow in her eyes and says that she must be very in love with Dazai to do that, and asks what she is going to do if the Seiken he is looking for is really his beloved. Annette gets sad and answers that she is accompanying him to find that out for herself. Tama decides to accompany them, but only until they pass through her village. Annette does not show much interest in her help. She asks how she intends to enter the temple, since she practically abandoned her work to chase after a suicidal person. Annette answers that she does not need to worry, because she has a very good friend at the temple who can help her. Furthermore, she did not abandon her job, since she sent her familiar to deliver her resignation letter. At that moment, Dazai is smoking a cigarette and observing the sky, when suddenly Annette's familiar lands on his head and begins to suck his blood. Annette enters into despair and asks what he did with her resignation letter. The familiar spits out the letter, showing that he did not deliver anything. Annette hits him, irritated because he did not perform such a simple task, and asks why he returned with nothing. Dazai observes the situation and comments that it is sad, since he returned to his beloved owner as he should, but now she is angry with him. Meanwhile, Annette is still irritated and decides to christen him with the name Milos. Little Milos flies with happiness while Dazai goes back to his coffin. Annette enters into despair when she realizes that she ended up abandoning her job without notice and begins to ask forgiveness from the gods. At that moment, Milos begins to hop and chirp on top of Dazai's coffin, as if he were trying to warn about something. But Dazai tells him to shut his mouth because he is disturbing. Suddenly, the air becomes turbulent and a huge dragon appears before them. The two are paralyzed, wondering what one of the most powerful monsters in the world is doing there, while the dragon roars when it is about to attack. A hooded girl appears calling the dragon Ruka and ordering him to stop. The girls observe while she approaches the dragon and whispers a very strange language, managing to calm and domesticate the creature. She advises that they leave as quickly as possible, since that region is full of dangerous monsters and apparently already has the dead person with them. At this time, Dazai opens the coffin asking for his boiled tofu, and Annette tells the hooded one not to be startled, because he is just an outsider resting. Upon hearing this, she becomes furious and speaks that she is going to kill him and all the outsiders that exist. She takes off her hood, revealing herself to be someone half dragon, half human, and launches a powerful beam of energy. Annette does not understand anything of what is happening, but even so manages to protect them with her shield, but it ends up collapsing and leaving everyone gravely wounded. Even so, they stand up because they need to protect their beloved master. But in the next second, the dragon girl knocks everyone down again. Annette notices a mark on her neck, which reveals that that girl is the Dark Lord, who is about to kill them. Dazai prevents it, speaking that her problem is with the outsiders and not with the two of them, which is why he must be her opponent, and asks that she leave his beloved friends in peace. He speaks that she can do whatever she wants with him, because he is more than prepared to die. Annette and Tama try to stop him, but the Dark Lord charges forward and ends up piercing his chest. Afterward, she leaves, speaking that her name is Wardelia. The girls fall defeated upon seeing their beloved master dead, but Dazai stands up while still gushing a lot of blood. He approaches Wardelia saying that she keeps much hatred in her heart, and just like her, he also has wanted to stab someone before, and even used to send threat letters to that person. Wardelia takes a step back startled and asks what he is talking about, and Dazai answers that he also was consumed by hatred at some point, and knows that she is going through the same thing. While touching her face, he asks if she wants to talk about it. Wardelia becomes startled and leaves riding on the dragon. In the distance, she wonders who that man is. After that, Milos transforms into a magic carpet and manages to carry them to the temple, where a priestess runs to succor Annette. She asks that they save a man who is about to die, and the priestess orders that they bring all the healing potions and all available priests. The next day, Dazai is already healed, so much so that he goes to a shop to try to drink poison, since they left him so well that he feels bad. The merchant gets startled by his insanity, and Tama throws the poison away to prevent him from continuing to drink. Meanwhile, Annette thanks Isha for having helped, promising to reward her later. At that moment, she takes the opportunity to ask if she knows someone named Seiken, but Isha answers that she has no idea who that might be. But the real question is why she is traveling with the outsider and abandoned her job. Annette speaks that to her the job does not even matter that much, since she always thought herself too pure to work there. Traveling with the outsider is not the most suitable, because most of them are crazy and not decent at all. To these types are granted divine gifts and powers to defeat the Dark Lord, but instead of fulfilling their duties, they call them broken abilities, and use them to live a good life. At that moment, an outsider named Kitaro appears. He begins to rap about his power, which is to create infinite money. And when he is filling the table with coins, Isha throws something at him, screaming for him to shut his mouth at once, telling Annette that they are all the same, and that she must stop traveling with this outsider because he has a very toxic appearance, and if she continues with him, she will end up ruined. But she answers that he is not like the others, since thanks to him she managed to change her destiny and be who she is now. Suddenly, Dazai approaches asking for money for substances harmful to health. She hands it over happily, and clearly he has already ruined her. Upon seeing that there is no more solution, Isha asks what this outsider's gift is. Annette answers that he does not have any gift. Even so, he risked his life against the Dark Lord to protect them. Isha gets very surprised, since a simple outsider managed to defeat the Dark Lord a week ago, and that cannot be possible. After that, a dragon is shown crying for its master. but a strange voice tells it to calm down, because no matter how much it cries, he is already dead. At the castle, we see Wardelia, who is furious with the loss of her father. After that, Annette tells everything to Tama and feels happy because Zauberberg is finally at peace. When the two are thanking the strange outsider, they remember Wardelia and wonder who that woman is. At that moment, Dazai tears up some sheets of paper, screaming that he is tired of not being able to die and gets irritated at doing nothing, since he is incapable of writing, and he is desperate. Even though the encounter with Wardelia gave him a bit of an excitement, he needs something similar to inspire himself even more. Annette has a good idea and takes him to go for a walk around the village. They arrive at a blacksmith shop where they put armor on Dazai so that he does not get hurt and does not run any danger. Annette speaks that they are going shopping and asks for him to stay there waiting, and that, please, he does not try to die. After that, some children look at the strange armor in the middle of the street. Isha, upon seeing him, asks what he is doing in that place. Dazai answers that he is seeking new emotions and ignores her, but she takes the opportunity to warn him that she is going to stay with Annette, because she will not permit an outsider like him to corrupt her purity. She asks for him to expel her from the group, but Dazai does not intend to expel her and just smiles in her face, saying that it is Annette herself who must decide if she wants to accompany him or not, since this decision does not belong to either of the two. He further asks how she can be so sure that Annette will have bad luck staying with him, and Isha answers that she does not trust outsiders like him, because, according to her, they are all idiots. At that moment a large parade happens and Sasuke is on top of a white wolf, an outsider who gathers everyone. He informs that some outsiders managed to defeat the Dark Lord and that everyone must rejoice because the world is finally at peace. The people believe the news and start to praise all the outsiders, but Sasuke has other plans and speaks that thanks to them peace was achieved, and the fairest thing is that now the outsiders rule everything. He proclaims that he will be the ruler of that land and that the era of the great heroes begins now. Meanwhile, Kotaro continues rapping about the great deeds of Sasuke, but notices Annette and accuses her of having mistreated him a few days before. She gets startled speaking that it was a misunderstanding, but Sasuke approaches her, saying that he will punish her for having treated the great heroes of Zauberberg poorly. After that, we see people fleeing the city while everything is in flames. Dazai walks through the streets speaking that he finally found his inspiration. In a memory it is shown how everything began. Sasuke approaches Annette and caresses her head while using his pet magic, and she is locked in a cage with her eyes turning yellow and black. When she is possessed, Kotaro mocks her, saying that the purer the person is, the easier she falls. Tama grabs him by the neck and asks what he did with his magic. He answers that Sasuke's ability allows him to enslave anyone whose head is caressed. Tama tries to attack him, but Sasuke also enslaves her, laughing and boasting about his incredible ability. Isha approaches irritated, saying that she does not remember having taught him to use his gift in this manner. Furthermore, she will not permit an honorable people of Vari to kneel before a villain like him. The citizens begin to support her. Sasuke observes everyone and answers that if that be the case, he will have to destroy the entire city and create a new kingdom where his subjects truly obey him. He orders his wolves to attack everyone, and the citizens flee in panic. Sasuke surrounds Isha with a pack of wolves, while he departs speaking that he will use her beloved church as his new castle. Meanwhile, the wolves destroy the city with fireballs, and Tama goes after Dazai, attacking him with all her strength. He remains calm inside his armor, but Tama manages to destroy it and ends up hitting the helmet against her own head, knocking herself unconscious. While Dazai thinks about what to do with her, he decides to place her inside a barrel, with a sign saying to beware of the cat. Suddenly, Isha is thrown near Dazai, while the entire city is in flames. He greets her normally. She ignores him and speaks about everything that outsiders like him are capable of doing, using their powers in a selfish way and letting greed overcome self-control, since Sasuke was not a monster when he arrived in this world, but rather a shy and peaceful man. Isha's words enter Dazai's mind, and he begins to write everything down in his notebook, saying that Sasuke is the type of man who interests him, and asks where he is. She answers that he is going toward the church, but warns him not to face him, since he does not possess any gift. Even so, Dazai says that with someone like that he might manage to write a masterpiece. Isha realizes that she will not manage to stop him, which is why she decides to accompany him. After that, they arrive at the church, and upon seeing that Dazai is smiling peacefully, she scolds him for being so carefree, since he himself saw that Sasuke is a true monster. Someone without a gift has nothing to do against an outsider. She tries to convince him that if he enters without a plan, the wolves will devour him, but notices that he has a bottle of poison in his hand, and sighs in relief thinking that he is not so reckless after all, and comments that it will be an excellent idea to reduce their HP before entering. Oh, her surprise, she cannot believe seeing him drink the poison himself as if it were nothing. Desperate, she throws herself to the ground and begs for him to follow her to enter through the back entrance, but Dazai ignores her and enters through the front door. He introduces himself and says that Sasuke seems like a very interesting person, so much so that he would like to write a novella about him. Sasuke rejoices and asks if the story will be about the great hero who conquered another world, but Dazai answers no. In fact, it will be the story of a man who receives more power than he deserves and ends up being a victim of his own greed, since what truly interests him is his experience as a human being. Sasuke gets irritated seeing that Dazai is mocking him and orders his wolves to finish him off. They advance against Dazai, but he has no desire at all to dodge and continues noting everything down. At that moment, Isha begins to fire several beams of concentrated light. Even so, there are so many beasts that she cannot handle them all. The wolves together with Sasuke form several fireballs and launch them against them. When they are about to hit Dazai, a flying helmet appears and defends against all the attacks. Dazai realizes that it is Milos and says thank you for him having helped, remembering that the armor was capable of reflecting beginner-level magic. Meanwhile, Kotaro enters into panic seeing that he is about to be hit and asks Sasuke what he intends to do. Sasuke responds that he does not need to worry, because he still has his card up his sleeve. He orders the great wolf to devour him. When the creature advances and bites Dazai's body, it ends up poisoning itself with his blood. Sasuke and Kotaro enter into panic seeing that it was defeated so easily, and Kotaro flees in despair. Isha approaches Dazai. While healing his wound, she is impressed upon realizing that he used his own poisoned body as a defense. The two approach Sasuke and Isha orders him to surrender, since he has no more creatures to use. He says that it is not over yet and invokes an already enslaved Annette. He hands a dagger to her and orders her to kill everyone. She advances against Isha, striking with her dagger. Dazai appears in the fight and tells Isha that Annette is not as weak as she thinks, and that if she wants to be a slave, she needs to decide that for herself. He places himself in front of her, reminding her that she needs to awaken, because she is not a captive bird. Annette begins to use her willpower to resist. Sasuke, seeing that she is resisting the slavery, screams for her to do it quickly and intensifies his magic even more. At the moment she is about to attack, Annette remembers that before Dazai's arrival, she had lost her way and no longer did her job with the same passion as before, and now she sees him as her true saving light. She ends up striking herself, and by doing so, loses her balance and falls into Dazai's arms. Fortunately, she also lost the effect of the slavery. Dazai asks Isha to take care of her wounds. While she does so, he remembers the words he spoke to Annette and thinks that Annette is not as weak as he imagined. Sasuke falls defeated upon seeing that his broken ability is not as broken as he thought. Desperate, he grabs the dagger to try to commit suicide, but Dazai prevents him, warning him that he must not kill himself. And he reminds him that he is writing a romance about him and does not intend to permit him to end the exciting story so soon. The word story begins to repeat in Sasuke's head, who remembers his past life in his previous world, when he was just a coward who was beaten by the strongest ones at school. He thought many times about ending his life, but in reality he did not have the courage to do it. On his way home, he bumps into a drunkard, who screams saying that he is a brat who does not look where he is going. Sasuke tries to hit him, but he does not have the courage, so he ends up leaving very depressed. The Isekai'd truck ends up running him over and sends him to Zauberberg, where he is received by Isha, who welcomes him and informs him that he will have to face the Dark Lord with the gift that was granted to him. Sasuke is surprised to see that he has such an important role and begins to practice his ability more and more. But when he walks through the streets of Veri, he notices that all the people look at him with contempt and criticize him for being an outsider, just like in his old world. However, he remembers that now he has power, and that everything will be very different from what it was before. Instead of becoming the hero that everyone expected, he decided to become the villain. who is going to make them feel the same way that he felt. Returning to the present, he laments not being able to even be a decent villain. He is always going to be a nobody, a weakling who is despised by everyone. And without realizing it, he ended up telling his whole story to Dazai, who stands up saying that he has already managed to write everything, and that his story will be about a miserable man, someone who, despite wanting to be a hero in another world, manages to be neither a hero nor a villain due to his weakness. Dazai had planned to call his story Disqualified from Being a Hero, but in the end he ends up renaming it to No Longer Allowed in Another World. An enormous energy comes out of Dazai's book, which envelops Sasuke in a circle. Dazai says thank you for allowing him to write a story about him and recognizes that it had a good development. But unfortunately, it is still very far from being his masterpiece, which is why he ends up tearing up some sheets of paper. Annette and Isha get very surprised to see that Sasuke is in the middle of a summoning circle for outsiders. They wonder how it is possible that Dazai can do something like that. At that moment, the teleportation energy from the magic circle enters Sasuke's body and transports him back to his old world. Annette realizes that something strange is happening, because Dazai did not have a gift previously, but now he possesses the narrator ability. She realizes that it might be a special ability, which works only on certain targets, in this case the outsiders, and that possibly Dazai was sent to her world to face the foolish outsiders. At that moment, Dazai throws himself to the ground lamenting that he did not manage to write his masterpiece, furthermore that he did not manage to finish dying. While swallowing the tranquilizers, he asks the girls where Sasuke is. They answer that he has just been sent back to his original world. Meanwhile, the beasts that were attacking the city stop attacking. Tama also recovers from the slavery. After all the chaos settles down, Isha delivers a more beautiful coffin to Dazai in gratitude for the help. She steps aside with Annette to comment that it is very possible that Dazai has a great role to play in this world. Probably his journey is not going to be easy. It is going to be very dangerous, so she must help him however she can, because she trusts that she will manage to do it. Annette speaks that she does not need to worry, and they begin to prepare for their long journey. But before departing, Isha asks Dazai if he thinks that Sasuke became evil because this world granted more power than he deserved, and if it was also because of this that he returned him to the world where he could continue living the miserable life he had. Dazai answers that he has no idea why he became so different upon arriving in that world, but he also knows that the story of his own world continues, and that now it depends on him and the actions he takes to decide whether or not it will become a masterpiece. After that, we see Sasuke in his original world, looking for a job and continuing his story. Shaw teleports to what seems to be the temple of the priests, and one of them, named Wolf, receives her while he is slouched over drinking alcohol. She asks for him to stop drinking so much, but Wolf answers that he needs it because he has to deal with the smelly dwarves of his region, which leaves him very stressed. She is very lucky for having to deal with the demi-humans. At that moment, an archbishop requests silence because he does not want to hear comments like that in the temple again. Wolf mocks him, because besides being the first priest who is not an elf, he also managed to become an archbishop, being a goblin. The goblin answers that race is irrelevant, since there are many elves out there who live the wrong way. Wolf gets very irritated and screams if he is so perfect like that, then he should switch regions, because unlike him, he is lucky that his region is very peaceful. They begin to argue for a while Isha gets annoyed at having to listen to all of that. But at that moment Cardinal Miller appears, who approaches and orders everyone to sit down. Everyone sits at the table, and Miller is about to request all the reports from each region. Suddenly the priestess who was missing arrives. She runs to sit down and ends up falling, apologizing for having arrived late. Miller comments about that new bishop of the Temple of Aston, and that it is the first time she participates in a meeting, so he asks that she introduce herself and deliver her report. She introduces herself as Arya, the substitute for the former Bishop Annette, and as she is still a novice she asks for support to commit the minimum number of mistakes possible. She informs that the region of Stark, the sacred land of mountains and flames, is without news at the moment. The cardinal answers that the heiress, named Charlotte, recently assumed the throne, and that is a great piece of news in the entire region, which is why Arya apologizes for having forgotten. Isha thinks that a novice like her will not manage to perform Annette's job. At that moment, Elton, Archbishop of the Temple of Barton, introduces himself and informs that peace and calm reign in his jurisdiction. The region of Middleth, land of lakes and waters, thanks to the authority of His Holiness, has no problems at the moment. He takes the opportunity to say that she needs to be more punctual in the meetings of the priests. Wolf also introduces himself as Bishop of the Temple of Triton, in the region of Saddest, the sacred land of desert. Even being far from everything goes well over there. However, the cardinal interrupts because he heard about the conflicts with the dwarves currently. Wolf explains that this is inevitable, since even he is attacked when he tries to control some arguments. Isha also introduces herself as Bishop of the Temple of Sweden, in the region of Saddest, the sacred land of the forest and the wind, and speaks that a few days ago an outsider lost control of his power, destroying half of the city of Vari, which for now finds itself under reconstruction. Miller comments that he summoned them to the meeting to speak about the outsiders, since recently a group of them defeated the Great Dark Lord. So, His Holiness decided to seal the magic summoning circles, because now they run no further danger. The outsiders are no longer necessary for anything. However, the 7 outsiders who defeated the Dark Lord stayed with his domain and now are its rulers. They declared that with their power, they will transform everything into a perfect society. Everyone is left in disbelief. And Miller informs that His Holiness is also very worried about the whole situation, because he believed that the outsiders were angels sent to save them, and gave his love to them unconditionally, but they turned their backs, declaring war against the church. They lament that the 7 archangels who just saved the world now are the 7 fallen angels who threaten to destroy it. Furthermore, they still need to deal with the rest of the outsiders, who are causing chaos in various regions, and to top it off, still Wardelia, the daughter of the Dark Lord who disappeared from the castle. Because of this, Miller alerts everyone that Zauberberg has entered a new era of chaos, and that their mission will be to overcome the difficulties to restore peace. However, the priests become sad upon seeing the amount of problems and wonder how they are going to fight against people so strong. At that moment, Isha comments about Dazai, an outsider who managed to send another back to his original world. She speaks about his gift, leaving everyone impacted upon seeing the news. Isha says that this is the only way to resolve all these problems. At that moment, His Holiness appears and everyone kneels before him. He greets Isha gently, speaking that perhaps that angel is the great savior of all their problems and asks that she tell more about him. Meanwhile, at the castle of the Dark Lord, a girl is singing and a man by her side serves her wine. He asks if she is thinking again about her beloved, while observing her wine. He thinks that they will be just spectators of what is going to happen in this new world. After that, the group arrives at the village of Virides, in the region of Stark, and Annette comments to Tama that before going to Grom they will need to spend the night in that village. She gets happy because finally she will be able to rest in a real bed. Suddenly, an announcement on the screen indicates that she just leveled up to level 17. All because of carrying Dazai's coffin. On the other hand, Annette tries to look for a tavern on the map. But at that moment a boy named Nur appears, who overhears them speaking about the tavern and shows the direction. He asks if by any chance they are tourists and explains that they do not need to worry about him, since he is there just to give some advice. The girls do not understand anything, and he explains his business model. A warrior pairing service, or an Otherworld Association service. His goal is to match an outsider with a weak person or a weak group, to guarantee their safety during the journey. However, upon remembering that all the outsiders he has ever dealt with are bloodthirsty idiots, he comments on this himself. Even so, Nur answers that foreigners are famous for saving the world, so he offers his services for the price of 40,000 coins. Tomo refuses, saying that she has other plans, and that at the moment she does not have all that money, but Annette hands over all the money to him, begging him to find a brave warrior. Tomo wonders if she went crazy, since 40,000 is a lot of money, and she should not have accepted so quickly. Annette answers that she does not care, because if it is to guarantee the safety of her master, money is what matters least. At that moment, Nur thinks that the master she is talking about is already dead, and comments that it is lamentable that money cannot bring a life back. However, if he can protect them so they do not die, it is already worth it. While touching the coffin, he consoles them, saying that their master will be happy in heaven to see them traveling with a warrior. At that moment Dazai appears. He says that he is not dead, even though he really wants to die. Nur panics upon seeing him, thinking that it is a zombie, while Dazai stares intently at him, and says that he does not like to be treated in a disrespectful manner. Tama comments that even though it does not look like it, Dazai is also a great outsider, but Nur asks how he can be an outsider if he is as pale as a ghost. Dazai does not like this description. The boy takes Annette's money and leaves, saying that they must wait at the tavern to meet the said warrior. Meanwhile, Dazai just observes. Tama gets happy because finally she no longer needs to carry that coffin, but Annette warns that she will not permit a stranger to carry her master's coffin. After that, they arrive at the tavern and spend time until nightfall. The old woman of the tavern asks if they are going to stay until the early hours of the morning, and Annette asks for her to wait a little longer, because they are still waiting for someone. But Dazai tells her to forget that boy, because when he saw him for the first time, he noticed that his eyes looked like those of an adult. At that moment, the old woman asks if they gave money to him, because that young man lies deceiving everyone, saying that he knows great heroes and that he has a great security service, revealing that the boy is known as Nur the Big Mouth. They are horrified to realize that they were deceived. Dazai asks the old woman about the boy, and she answers that he is a child who arrived a long time ago and makes a living deceiving the visitors of that village. This causes a bit of pity, but those heroes he talks about do not exist. After that, we see Nur observing a small sword, when suddenly he is ambushed by thieves who end up kidnapping him. They tie him up and steal all the gold he was hiding, and Nur screams for them to release him, saying that his friends are outsiders and are going to rescue him. The three thieves show their abilities, making it clear that they are the true outsiders and that his deceptions will not work with them. One of them shows his crossbow named Media, saying that it is a powerful weapon capable of piercing the skin of a dragon. They threaten him, speaking that he will be punished for using their name to deceive the entire village, without even giving a percentage to them, and that now he will be able to boast in heaven that he was killed by one of the heroes he talked so much about. At that moment, he is aimed at with a crossbow, and when he is about to be hit, Nur wonders if those are really the heroes who would save the world. At the moment the trigger is pulled, Dazai deflects the attack, making the arrow hit the leg of the idiot on the side. He says that they are nothing but trash who lie to children, encouraging them to do the same to others. One of the bandits analyzes Dazai with his ability, and screams to the boss that he is also a dangerous outsider. But after analyzing better he realizes that he is poisoned and has only one hit point. The boss sighs in relief upon seeing that he is not a threat, and aims the crossbow at him, screaming that he will kill him. At that moment, the word kill repeats in Dazai's mind, who turns to them and points to his own heart, asking for them to finish him off at once. The man who was analyzing notices that his hit points are growing exponentially. They end up panicking and flee in despair upon seeing that that guy is a mentally ill person. After that, Nur wonders if he is a hero, but Dazai answers that he is not important enough to be one. In fact, no adult can be a hero, but he is still a child, and perhaps he can become one. If he keeps that look full of hope, Dazai goes away. Nur screams for him to untie him first while they yawn from not having slept at all. Annette asks where he has been during the night, and if by any chance he was with another woman. Dazai comments that it was a very pleasurable night, causing Annette to panic. At that moment Nur appears, and Tama screams for him to return their money, saying that he is a swindler. However, he answers that he did not lie, because he is a warrior, and now he has joined their group. A while later, they are about to arrive at the castle of Grom, and a notification in his head says that he discovered the castle of Grom. Dazai just wants to die because that voice gives him a headache. Meanwhile, Nur asks why he wants to die, and Dazai answers that life is an eternal suffering. Nur gets startled and speaks to the girls that the master wants to die, but they just ignore him, and Tama asks for him to replace her for a while. He begins to pull the coffin together with Annette, and in the distance they begin to see the city. When they are about to arrive, Tama gets very happy because it had been a very long time since she had been there. At that moment, Annette notices an inspection post, and Tama warns that they need to stay calm, because with her there everyone is safe, since she is very well known. But when a guard sees her they end up being surrounded and detained. After that, we see all of them trapped in a cell, while Annette begs to the heavens for them to be released. But since nobody saves them, she resigns herself to the idea that the gods do not exist. Nur gets confused by her sudden change of opinion, and asks if they are going to take them one by one since they took only Tama. Furthermore, they just arrived and were already arrested, so he thinks that perhaps Tama did something terrible, or offended the entire kingdom like stealing the crown jewels. It does not even seem like Nur is the swindler there. Annette answers that she does not believe that because she is no thief cat. At that moment, Dazai thinks about what the death penalty would be like in that world, and asks Annette if that works there. She answers that she is not going to reveal that to someone who is too excited to die. Meanwhile, he begins to imagine different medieval ways to die, and Nur starts to get frightened by his strange behavior, commenting that they need to find a way to escape from that place. Nur takes a hairpin and manages to open the cell door. Annette observes worriedly, thinking that they paid for a brave and respectable warrior, but in reality, that boy is a professional fugitive. Dazai approaches trying to congratulate him, but when they are about to leave, they end up being found by the guards, who tie them up again to take them to the king. While being tied up, Dazai asks the guard if he is going to be condemned to death, but he answers that the king will decide their fate, and orders him to stay quiet. After that, they are brought to the presence of the king of Grong, named Siberian, and his royal advisor, who informs that for committing a very grave crime, they are going to be condemned to the death penalty. Everyone gets terrified, except Dazai. While the rest ask what they did to receive such punishment, Siberian observes everyone and says that it is for having kidnapped the princess of the kingdom named Matilda, which is the cat girl's name. Therefore, death would be the most appropriate punishment for such a crime. They get confused because they never did that and do not even know the alleged princess. Suddenly, Tama appears complaining to her father, saying that she already explained she was never kidnapped. They get confused upon discovering that she really is a princess, and Tama explains that she was just traveling around the country on vacation. She just wanted to rest, and on that path ended up meeting all her friends. Annette confirms this, calling her Highness, but Tama screams that she does not want to be called that, and that she can treat her like always. She asks her father to release everyone, but he answers that he is only going to do that if she fulfills his orders and promises to never do these crazy things again, behaving like a true member of royalty, just like her mother, Tama Matilda. Matilda gets sad, but ends up agreeing and says that she will be an exemplary princess from now on. She apologizes to her friends because her journey has come to an end and she needs to fulfill her promise. The king releases the group, and later they go to a tavern to eat something. Annette still cannot assimilate everything that happened, and worries about having lacked respect toward Tama during the journey, afraid that she might be executed for it. Furthermore, she feels uncomfortable calling her by that strange nickname, since her name is very beautiful. The waitress hears them speaking about Matilda, and introduces herself as Kashika, commenting that she was her lady-in-waiting when she was at the palace, and that she is happy to meet them, since they are also her friends. Nur warns that they were until recently, because the king decided to lock her up, and she will not be able to see them ever again. Kashika feels sad, saying that this is something Siberian would do. Dazai observes that she knows something about their relationship, and asks if she could tell more about her past, since when he met Tama, she had been captured by a monstrous tree, and now her father locked her up in the castle. He says that she is a very interesting woman, and he cannot stop writing a story about her. However, the others think it is a terrible idea, because now she is a princess, and they should not meddle in her past, or even call her by the nickname. But Dazai does not care at all, saying that to him she is always going to be Tama. Koshika accepts to tell everything she knows. Meanwhile, Matilda remembers the boys when she sees a strange person at a distance through the window, and suddenly a monster launches a sphere of darkness against the castle. Soon after, Siberian arrives at the location and finds a man sitting on the throne, asking who he is. The young man introduces himself as Kaibara, one of the heroes who killed the Dark Lord and saved the world, but now he is called the fallen angel of gluttony and came to devour the nation. He reveals the same monstrous mouth that had appeared before. The guards try to attack him, reminding that that is a warrior country, but they end up being devoured by the creature. The mouth seems connected to his body. While cleaning himself, Kaibara speaks that he does not want to eat disgusting meat like theirs. Only young and soft women. Siberian faces the enemy and prepares himself to fight. Kaibara spits stones at high speed, but he blocks and counterattacks with his mountain cat strike. Kaibara pretends to suffer the attack and pushes him back, saying that his body is resistant because he has already devoured stone golems, so that strike is going to do nothing against him. Siberian increases his power and prepares his strongest attack, swearing that he will kill him with a single blow for having murdered his men and caused chaos in the kingdom. When they are about to collide, Tama appears begging for them to stop. However, Kaibara gets excited upon seeing her, saying that he wants to eat only fresh and soft meat. Tama realizes that that is the same man she saw through the window a short time ago. She tears her dress to fight alongside her father, but he stops her, saying not to be stupid, because she will never be able to replace Leon. She is left in shock, because Leon was her twin brother. Everyone in the country loved him and trusted them. Until 10 years ago, a storm devastated the city. When the Queen and Leon were returning to the castle, a landslide caused both of them to die. The king was devastated and entered into a deep depression for a long time. Tama just observed him suffer from a distance, until one day she decided to take her brother's place and cut her hair to look like him and try to make her father happy. Contrary to what she imagined, her decision ended up distancing the two of them even more. At that moment, Siberian screams that her martial arts are useless. But she ignores him and goes after Kaibara to attack him. However, he invokes a monstrous mouth and is about to devour her. But Siberian pushes her and ends up having his arm devoured instead. Kaibara shows the devoured arm of her father and Tama gets even angrier, going after him. Suddenly someone grabs her and takes her away from the battle, while Kaibara despairs for having lost his fresh meat. But there still remains the delicious king about to be devoured. After that, the group is about to leave the restaurant, while Dazai thanks Kashika for having told the entire story. At that moment, the king's advisor appears before them. He managed to rescue the princess. He explains that they had to flee from the castle because an outsider is destroying everything for no apparent reason. Suddenly, a large explosion is heard and Kaibara emerges displaying the defeated and bound king of Grom, announcing that now he is the new king and that he is only interested in eating the meat of the women and children of the kingdom. The men can continue their lives. However, a boy throws stones at them, but he is devoured by Kaibara. The people try to flee upon seeing the horrible scene, but Kaibara has already placed guards at all exits to prevent the escape. Dazai continues writing happily everything that is happening and says to Tama that she is going through something terrible, but that she is the heroine he is looking for, someone who does not give up in the face of any tragedy, and asks that she open her eyes to continue writing this incredible story. Tama revives memories of her mother. Upon awakening, she realizes that she is in Kashika's bed. Upon looking through the window and seeing the chaos, she goes out to reunite with the others, where the advisor approaches and explains everything that happened to her. Tama is determined to finish off Kaibara once and for all. However, the others stop her, because not even the king managed to stop him, and if she fought against him, she would be devoured in an instant. Tama answers that she cannot stand still, because she is the princess and needs to defend the kingdom. At that moment, Annette comments that her story reminds her of the tragedy of the Kulin Pass, but did not know that it was her mother and her brother who died in that accident. The people of the village cannot hold back their tears upon discovering this, and there is no doubt that they love their rulers. But if they lose her as well, they will lose all hope, which is why she asks for Tama to let the group act, because they cannot risk everything, since they have a secret technique to finish off Kaibara once and for all. While they move away, the advisor comments that she has good friends. When they arrive at the castle, they are detained by the guards, who warn them to leave, or they will be killed. Even so, they prepare themselves to fight. Dazai approaches and speaks that they only went there to be devoured, since the new king convinced them with his grandiose speech, and he lives thinking about how to die. The guards get very confused, because that was not the intention, and they also did not expect someone going voluntarily to be devoured. While they discuss what to do, Dazai gets irritated because they are taking too long, and wants to be devoured soon, so they end up locking him up again. Annette cries asking to leave the cell, and Dazai approaches Nur saying that it is time to work to escape from there. On the other hand, the advisor takes food to Tama, but as he already expected, she had already fled the room. After that, Kaibara waits for the next one who will be devoured. When the guards inform him that a strange human appeared who wants to be eaten, before he can hear everything, Tama appears and lands a powerful kick, knocking down two guards. The king observes that his daughter came to save him, while Kaibara gets excited imagining the delicious meat he is about to devour. After that, we see the past of the cats. Tama observes her brother training with her father. Leon needed to exert himself a lot to get strong, since he would be the next king and defender of the people. Tama asks her father to train her as well, because she finds it very unfair that only her brother learns to fight. He answers that she is a princess and must behave like one, ordering her to put on a dress and go read. Even without wanting to, Tama accepts and goes to her mother to tell what happened, saying that she cannot stand her father, because she is forced to act like a princess. while all she wants is to practice martial arts. Her mother laughs at her comments, and when she is about to whisper something, the memory ends and we return to the battle, where Kaibara says that he only used her father as bait to attract her, since she is his main course. He adds that it would be a shame to devour her all at once, without savoring her properly, so he intends to have a little fun before killing her. Tama swears that it will be she who will defeat him to avenge her father. Kaibara kicks her with force and knocks her to the ground. Next he goes after her with a powerful thunder technique, launching her against the wall. Tama realizes that that idiot just used her father's technique, and Kaibara answers that she is right, because his ability allows him to acquire the abilities of the people he devours, in addition to strengthening the ones he already possesses. He says that he is going to destroy her using her father's own techniques, and afterward he is going to eat her all up. Her father begs for him to stop, while Tama observes Kaibara about to attack her again. Meanwhile, the group wanders through the castle looking for Kaibara. Annette praises his plan, but doubts that it is really to help, and thinks it is more likely that he just wants to be devoured. Dazai stops walking, and Annette says that they should not waste time searching rooms, since they need to find Kaibara as soon as possible. Even so, Dazai insists on entering one of them. In the room of the former queen, he begins to rummage through the location, and finds a small medal. Annette asks for him to stop messing with things, but he ignores her and tries to open a drawer. Without succeeding, he asks Nur to use his techniques of a warrior, and he clearly accepts. After opening the drawer, Dazai smiles upon finding a book. Meanwhile, Tama tries to resist as much as she can, but Kaibara catches her by surprise with a tiger strike. Next, a mountain cat strike. She continues receiving a brutal beating, while he says that she should have listened to her father, since her martial arts are useless. Tama is fallen on the ground and remembers when she was a child, and used to ask her brother why he trained so much if he said he did not like to fight. Leon answers that she was right, because he was not good at combat and she had more talent than he did. But he explains that precisely because of this he trains so much, because he needs to exert himself more than everyone to become as strong as their father and be a prince capable of protecting her, their mother, and the entire country. Tama, even wounded, manages to stand up to face Kaibara again. Her father keeps begging for her to stop, saying that he is too strong and she will not manage to defeat him. Tama knows this, but thinks that if her brother were there he would never have given up, and if she gave up she would be dishonoring his memory. Kaibara would laugh hearing her, because he loves provoking stubborn people. He begins to lose his mind while invoking his power and remembers how he was in his previous world. He was born in a massive mansion, where his parents gave him everything he wanted. He could eat luxurious dishes and do whatever he pleased, but over time his heart became emptier and emptier, and he felt no satisfaction whatsoever. Whereupon he decided to feel alive and attempted to devour one of the maids, but they stopped him before he could succeed. He thought he was nothing more than an animal trapped in a cage, even though people said he was lucky to live that way. He could not feel it. Kaibara only felt satisfaction when hurting others, yet he still served as the most miserable person in the world. One day he stopped in the middle of the road and ended up being hit by the Isekai'd truck, landing in that world. Now he can eat everything he wants, since he ceased being prey to become the predator. The most important thing for him is to fill his stomach with extraordinary flavors. He launches his ability against Tama, while she begs once again for the 1,000th time with hopes that he will stop. When he was about to devour her, Dazai appears and says that his story is far too boring, and that it almost made him fall asleep. Tama is surprised when she sees her master defending her. Kaibara tries to make his creatures advance against him, but something very strange happens. They simply do not move. It is as if their instincts were screaming not to devour that man. He asks who he is, but Dazai ignores him, and Annette appears warning that his time of destruction is over, revealing that Dazai possesses the ability to send otherworlders back to their own world, and asks him to use his gift against Kaibara. To everyone's surprise, Dazai replies that he will not do that, because it is not worth talking about such a boring man. Annette cannot believe it, because when they actually need him, he does nothing of what he should. Kaibara loses his patience with Dazai's provocations, and increases his power, stating that he is a predator, and that he will finish all of them. In addition to devouring the delicious demi-human princess, the others try to recover from the explosion, while Tama watches consumed by guilt, thinking that everything happened because of her, because she insisted on fighting, and having tried to replace Leon. She begins to cry, admitting aloud that everything is her fault. Dazai consoles her and offers her a story, hoping that she will read it. Soon we discover that during all this time, Dazai was writing about the tragic fate of Tama, recognizing that it was something very interesting, and asks her to read it. She does so and Dazai's gift begins to activate, but it needs some time to be completed, and Dazai tries to gain this time by confronting Kaibara to delay him. Dazai comments that the more he knew Tama, the more he realized that she was a kind woman, who always suppressed what she truly felt since childhood. Because she was quite clumsy, she did not realize that she was trapped the entire time by her father's vision, trying to become an ideal princess, which tormented her greatly. After the tragedy that struck her family, she tried to cheer up her father by replacing her brother, who was the true ideal prince, but her feelings were misunderstood, and the distance between her and her father only increased. At that moment, she lost sight of who she truly was, but her mother reminded her that her life belonged only to herself. The king observes everything while Tama remembers her mother, saying that she should live however she wanted, and that if her father did not like it, she would deal with it herself, because they were a family and they wanted to see her happy. Tama is very conflicted between living as the ideal princess her father desires, or as the ideal prince her brother would have been. Dazai tells her that neither of those paths is hers, because now she has become Tama. She feels as if the chains that bound her were broken, and her body begins to energize a golden aura. Kaibara approaches closer and closer, while the king is impressed to see that the aura emitted by Tama is the emblem of the divine beast. This emblem had been discovered by her and her brother when they were children, and he was excited to tell their father. However, she stopped him, because her father did not want her to practice martial arts, and she thought it was better to hide it. At that moment, her father had already seen everything, and out of his selfish desire to protect her from danger, he ended up sealing her true gift. He regrets not having understood that his wife Palma had realized it from the very beginning. Meanwhile, Kaibara observes and comments that he has already digested her father's power, and that if this were an anime or manga, she would awaken her power, and after defeating him everything would end in a happy ending. But he warns that this will not happen, because he is a predator, and the fate of an animal like her is to be devoured. Dazai lights a cigarette and replies that this will not happen, since hope has a habit of deceiving people, just as despair also does. And when one reaches the depths of despair, sometimes there still exists a tiny ray of hope. Tama activates the emblem of the divine beast, and her father prays that Palma and Leon will protect her. Annette and Nur encourage her to finish off Kaibara once and for all. Tama advances against him while Kaibara mocks her, saying that he already devoured her father's arm and inherited his abilities. However, she does not utilize her father's abilities, but rather her own, and delivers a cat headbutt that makes the Pac-Man retreat. Kaibara becomes very irritated, but has no time to react, when Tama uses the power of the divine beast and ends up piercing his stomach. After that he falls defeated, while Annette runs to heal Tama's wounds. At that moment Dazai hands the king his wife's book. He complains about him having read it without permission, but as the father gives thanks for him having guided and saved his daughter, Dazai replies that he does not deserve so much credit, since all he did was write his book. The old man comments to the king that Tama finally broke the seal, which was placed upon her when she was a child. Even though she achieved something incredible using the king's fangs, her power is still not complete. Suddenly, Kaibara stands up in a monstrous form, wondering how he is still alive. Everyone is surprised, while he remembers that when they defeated the Dark Lord, he took the opportunity to eat some of his flesh and became the supreme predator of that world. He begins to increase his power in an absurd manner, and when he is about to attack, his head is cut off by Wardelia. Upon seeing her, Kaibara mocks, saying that he did not expect her to still be alive and remembers that her father's flesh was delicious. But Wardelia fires a powerful laser beam that disintegrates him. At that moment, Dazai appears before her. Wardelia is startled and asks how he is still alive, but he ignores her and comments that Kaibara was one of her father's killers, asking if she feels better after having finished him off. She flees and the others are quite confused when they realize that the daughter of the Dark Lord is afraid of Dazai. He observes her from afar, wishing he could write a story about her. The next day, the citizens of the settlement work on the reconstruction of the capital. While Koshika gives thanks for having saved everyone, Tama says that she will stay at the castle to fulfill her duties and help the king. Annette understands, since she needs to help her family after everything that happened. Tama observes the kingdom through the window. When her father enters the room and asks what she is doing there, saying that that room is for refined princesses and not for wild women like her. He asks if her friends are leaving that day and says that she should go with them. Tama tries to refuse, but he asserts that he is not so old as to need to be protected by an inexperienced young woman. She glares at him, and he says that he only has one condition, that she return when she finishes her journey. Tama accepts, strips off the annoying dress and exits through the window, promising that she will become a master of martial arts. The father observes her smiling and the advisor approaches, asking if that was the right way to say goodbye to his daughter. He replies irritatedly that he is not good at expressing his feelings. He observes his wife's book smiling, because he is finally understanding his daughter. On the other hand, the group drags Dazai, while he complains because Nur is not capable enough to carry him. Just like Annette, Nur also complains, but at that moment Dazai stands up and notices that Tama is coming toward them. After some time traveling, they see an enormous tree and Tama warns that that is the greatest of all, called Yggdrasil, the famous world tree. Annette tells Dazai that this tree grants its protection to everyone who visits it, and that at its feet lies the peaceful village of Treeborn, where people live in a simple manner in harmony with nature. She recommends that they pass through there, to pray for a safe journey. Tama attacks her for interfering, since she wanted to explain that to Dazai. But he ignores her and commands everyone to continue dragging the coffin. Later they arrive at the village of Treeborn. The girls see a large sign written in the language of the Otherworlders. Dazai comments that that is a gambling house, and that this story of a simple village, in harmony with nature, is nothing but nonsense. At that moment we see some psychopaths stabbing people, and Dazai comments that this is the true reality of the village and what they themselves chose. However, his tranquilizer pills run out, and he wonders where there is a tree to hang himself. He falls into despair and begins to eat rocks. After a while they meet with the chief of the village, who explains that Treeborn was a peaceful place, where everyone lived in harmony with nature, but that a few months ago several Otherworlders arrived. Since they built the casino, they started to attract all kinds of violent people, destroying the tranquility of the place. The elder shows a leaf and reveals that the world tree has begun to wither, and he believes that it might be sad. With everything that is happening, he asks the group to save the village. Before answering, Dazai asks if he can fill his flask with tranquilizers. At that moment they are interrupted by an Otherworlder named Yamada, who claims that he is going to save the world tree. The girls become alert, suspecting the Otherworlders, but he says that he is different, because he desires the peace of that world, and being an Otherworlder like the others, he cannot forgive their atrocities, asking permission from the chief to save the village. The girls realize that there can be good Otherworlders, and Annette suggests that Dazai help Yamada save the settlement. But when she looks to the side, Dazai had already disappeared. Meanwhile he proceeds toward the casino, irritated because his body is full of health, and he urgently needs to correct that. On the way he sees a cave full of smoke and enters it, marveling to see a group of madmen living an astral experience. They are thrilled to find an unhealthy and corrupted place, and he asks them to give him a bit of their happiness. At that moment a girl grabs him by the face and with a malicious smile warns that she is going to take him to a fun place. After that Dazai finds himself in a tavern, where he tries to drown his sorrows in alcohol. The girl asks what he was doing in that cave, since that is where those addicted to the calming leaves of the world tree go, meaning that tree is a gold mine. Dazai reveals that he lost something important, and that the fact that his mind and body are healthy does not let him sleep. The girl asks his name, and Dazai replies that she can call him Sensei. She comments that she is going to make him sleep very deeply, since she is a dancer. Dazai does not like the idea, because it makes no sense to watch someone dance, but she forces him anyway. He ends up liking it and comments that it will be a very pleasant night. Meanwhile Annette is very depressed, because she does not know where her dear Dazai is. At that moment at the inn, the red-haired girl arrives with Dazai in her arms, almost causing Annette to have a fit upon seeing that he is with another woman. She asks who that is, but the chief appears calling the girl Esmeralda, and reminding her that she did not have permission to come there. She covers her face and says that she only came to drop off that man. Tama asks who she is, and the elder reveals that her name is Esmeralda, known as the Witch of Treeborn. When the Otherworlders were building the castle, they could not stop them. However, Esmeralda gained the trust of the otherworlders and opened a tavern next to the gambling house. She has always been a mysterious woman who lived in the surroundings, and no one knows her true age or origin. They only allowed her to stay because she seemed harmless, but in reality she is a manipulator who accumulated a fortune from the otherworlders, and now everyone in the settlement calls her a traitorous witch. Yamada comments that just like the otherworlders, she must also receive what she deserves, while Dazai just listens to everything with a smile. The next day, Annette asks where he is going, since the battle against the otherworlders is about to begin. He replies that he does not need to accept such a dangerous job, and what he needs is the peace that Esmeralda's tavern provides for him. Annette tries to stop him, but Yamada interrupts and says that Dazai succumbed to the claws of that witch. However, there is no need to worry, because he is going to destroy the evil that is in that village. Meanwhile, Dazai thanks Esmeralda, because that night he managed to forget how painful life is. She recommends that he not spend so much time there, since they call her a witch, and if something happens she does not want to be blamed later. Dazai replies that that is exactly what he wants. While they toast, she wishes for the protection of the world tree, and Dazai becomes curious asking about it. She explains that when the spirit of the world tree descends, it saves the weak and sick by granting wishes, and advises him to pray so that perhaps it can alleviate his pain. Dazai asks if by any chance it is not she who is seeking salvation, because it was something he thought upon seeing her dancing at night. Her dance was delicate and precious, but above all it conveyed much sadness. She does not know what to answer, but at that moment they are interrupted by some otherworlders. She asks Dazai to have patience. The three fall to their knees before a man, who fights with them for having lost the casino's money. They beg for forgiveness, but the man in the hat shouts for them to go out in search of the money, or he will finish them off with his ability. They run away. Upon sitting down, he recommends to the boss to transfer the casino to another place, since there are fewer and fewer otherworlders who visit them, decreasing profits. The mustached man replies that it is too early for that, because they can attract more people from the other side of the bridge, and they only need to teach the pleasure of gambling, and how divine it is to smoke the leaves of that tree. Esmeralda interferes, suggesting that they do not do such a thing, because he promised that the casino would be only for otherworlders, and that he would leave the inhabitants alone. The mustached man replies that business is just like that. That way, she would also earn more money, but she does not care, since she already receives a lot to leave the inhabitants' lives in peace. He ignores her, and orders the subordinate to go kidnap some villagers, and force everyone to smoke. She tries to stop him, but is pushed and thrown to the ground. Dazai approaches, and comments that in his world women like her are not called witches, because she is an angel. At that moment a large explosion occurs. Upon leaving the tavern, they are surprised to see the casino in pieces. Yamada warns that he will get rid of all of them, and also of the witch for disturbing the peace. Dazai becomes irritated for not being able to stand exaggerated people like him. He just sits down, and comments that sermons from others will never make anyone respect anyone. Yamada ignores him and decides to show what true justice is, using his ability to defeat the show-offs and the cowards. Everyone runs away in fear. After that he asks Esmeralda if she intends to face him with her sword. Instead, she thanks him for having saved the village, which makes him happy to see that she changed her mind and learned her lesson. Yamada communicates to the chief that as promised, he saved the village, and all the inhabitants celebrate happily. However, upon seeing Esmeralda, everyone glares at her with anger and contempt. Yamada tries to calm them down, but they begin to throw stones. Then Dazai interrupts, saying that in all worlds it is the same. People are nothing but idiots, and reveals that she is the true heroine who fought alone to protect that village, preventing those thugs from messing with them. The ignorant villagers, blinded by anger, do not listen, and to prevent them from attacking Dazai, she decides to leave. Yamada observes everything deeply moved, while the inhabitants rejoice to see that the witch is leaving. Yamada asks Dazai if he knew this would happen. He replies that the line separating good from evil is very blurred. Many pretend it is not so, and never doubt that what they do is correct, but the cries of those people made love for one's neighbor disappear. Yamada asks if he is implying that they did wrong. Dazai replies that the only indisputable fact is that those people drove away the one who was protecting them the entire time. The group runs after Dazai, while the chief approaches Yamada and asks if he can become the protector of the village. The thugs left, and they accumulated a fortune selling the leaves of the world tree. Therefore now they will be the ones who will sell them. the world tree will live again and will give its blessing to everyone, and as payment, he will keep 10% of the profits. Yamada cannot believe it upon hearing this, remembering Dazai's words, and he falls to his knees, wondering what it was that he did. On the other hand, Annette asks if he already knew everything would end like this. Dazai replies no, but indeed he is no better than Yamada. In the end, he could not save her. At that moment, the world tree begins to wither, and all the villagers become quite confused. Suddenly, Esmeralda appears before Dazai. She is in her true form, thanking him for having understood her and hopes that he can find peace in his life. Dazai receives her blessing and gets an infinite pot of tranquilizer as a gift. After that, the group is walking through the sacred land of deserts in the Santerad region. The girls are tired of walking in this roasting sun, while Dazai is happy thinking that he could die charred by the sun. Tama asks Annette why they cannot see anything, but she also has no idea, since according to the map, they were following the shortest route to the Temple of Triton, but it seems it will be impossible to arrive. With his mediocre experience in deserts, the great warrior says that with him it is different, because he comes from this region, and Tama comments that it is rare for him to be useful for something, so they need to take advantage of his wisdom at this moment. And Nur explains that because of the strong sun of the place, monsters and bandits usually attack at night. Therefore it is safer to travel during the day. However, his experience is worth nothing, since they are attacked by bandits, who say that they are in the territory of the otherworlder hunters. If they want to pass, they must pay them. Nur realizes that they are fallen otherworlders. The girls do not intend to give money to that kind of people, and they finish off all of them. Their leader, named Suru, notices that Dazai cannot stand the heat, therefore he lunges at him. But Nur tries to do something, even though in reality he is scared to death. Suru warns that it is better for him not to play the hero, because it is plain to see that he has never used a sword before. If he attempts to draw it, it means that he is prepared to die from the venom of his scorpion, and that with this venom he will die agonizing for an hour. He asks if he is sure that this is what he wants, but Dazai shouts yes, because he truly wants to die agonizing for an hour. The scorpion stings him, and Suru uses his ability to inflict even more damage. However, Dazai's venom ends up killing the scorpion, and Suru tries to take revenge for the death of his underlings. Nur cannot even move, and when they are about to strike a blow against Dazai, they hear a powerful howl. One of the henchmen warns Tsuru that it is time to get out of there, but by not putting on his mask he ends up suffocating. Annette prepares to heal Dazai while Tama tries to cheer up Nur, saying that he should not worry, because he will still be able to defeat the next opponent. However, this does not make him feel better, and he apologizes to Dazai for being a coward. But Dazai replies that nobody is born a hero, and that everyone becomes much stronger over time. Annette becomes worried about the howl from before, and asks Nur to guide them, since he is the only one who can do so. Sometime later they arrive at the orphanage, where he says they can spend the night. Some small children run to embrace Nur, and Mistress Kate is happy to see him. They are welcomed with a grand banquet, and everyone is delighted when Kate comments that lately someone has been sending food to them. She wanted to give thanks, but has no idea who this person is. At that moment Dazai comments that he knows nothing about that, and asks for some synthetic flavorings. A child asks Nur if he has already managed to become a brave warrior, and Tama prepares to hear the answer. Nur says that in a certain sense yes, as he is part of a hero's party. The youngsters like the answer, and Nur introduces Dazai. He says that he is not a hero, but rather a writer. In that case, the children ask him to tell a story, and he decides to narrate about a fellow who ran up his friend's debt and fled after stealing everything. The mistress requests that he not tell such a story to children. Once it is night, they hear the powerful howl from before once again. Kate reveals that it is a wild monster, a starving wolf that appeared in the region, as she needs to protect the children. This frightens her greatly, and she recommends that the youngsters do not go out that night if they do not wish to die. But the rascal Dazai is already in the vicinity observing the place. Nur wakes up after taking a punch from Tama, and panics upon seeing a shadow walking outside the house. He takes his sword and decides to check, but almost craps his pants with fear upon encountering the strange fellow. This fellow comments that he is no thief. In case he is wondering, Nur realizes that he is the person who leaves food for the children, and thanks him very much for that, asking why he does not reveal who he is. He replies that he is very happy just seeing everyone eating in secret through the window. Nur asks him to follow him, and shares that he used to live there before. His parents died when he was small, and he grew up in that place together with the other children, whereby he remembers that it was his father's sword. Now he travels the world to become a brave warrior worthy of that sword. If he achieves his objective, the other children will also be proud to be part of the orphanage. Despite this, he still has much to improve in terms of courage. At that moment, the fellow begins to cry, and says that he is certain his parents must be very proud of him in heaven. He hopes that Nur continues to be so kind, and asks him to tell more about his travels. While they converse, Dazai listens to everything in hiding. At dawn, the fellow bids farewell, but Nur invites him to have breakfast with them. However, he replies that it is enough to be able to help them from the shadows, and that he does not deserve that. Nur remains confused, but asks for a bit more of his time, and arrives at an oasis where they gather various supplies to secretly bring to the children. Meanwhile, Dazai feels very tired of the children, who are annoying him. At nightfall, Nur ends up falling into a deep sleep, when suddenly Kate appears desperate, warning that little Nate has been kidnapped by the otherworlder hunters, and that they are demanding payment or the child will suffer consequences. The girls go there and face them. When Tsuru realizes that they are the boys who finished off his underlings, he orders an attack. The girls fight against them, but the useless nurse stands paralyzed with fear. At that moment, the fellow from before appears and takes Nur away. While he cries for being a coward, the man observes him remembering his old life in the other world, where he was confined to a wheelchair and could not help his friend. Now he tells Nur that he will take care of everything, because in his previous world, he lost something important because of his legs, and now he has the power to finish off those fools who make a good boy like him sad. He transforms into a werewolf and advances against all the bandits, who begin to flee in panic upon seeing him. The wolf goes after Tsuru and he is very angry, because those who took someone important from his life were just as idiotic as them. However, when he was about to finish him off, Nurse summons enough courage and stops his attack, asking him to stop. Otherwise, he would lose the kindness he possesses. The pink-haired one flees to save his own life, but the wolf goes after him. Even so, Nur continues to interfere and releases his sword to make him stop. The otherworlder, upon seeing his gaze, remembers someone dear. While he shouts, the bandits take the opportunity to escape. He ends up losing his transformation. After a while, he reveals to Nur that just like him, he had also been alone for a very long time. He lost his parents at a very young age, but one day a boy helped him. For the first time in his life, he felt another person's kindness. But that happiness did not last long, because when his friend was in danger, he did nothing to help him. While fleeing, he ended up landing in this other world. If he had his legs in good condition, he would have been able to help him. Dazai says that this is a very foolish excuse. He asks if it truly was his legs that prevented him from helping. Or if this is nothing but an excuse to soothe his weak heart. Nur asks him to stop because not everyone is as strong as he is. He says that he understands, that he knows how he feels, because he always flees and lies to save his own skin. However, he intends to make an effort not to flee again, and not to lose against himself. Nur requests that he not blame him. At that moment, the man gives thanks for Nur being so kind, but says that he is wrong about something, because when he was about to make a mistake because of his power, he risked his life to stop it, despite not having the strength for it. Being a true brave warrior is being someone like him. As for himself, he is a coward who only knows how to make excuses. Dazai's gift activates. He says that perhaps he is a coward, but he is also a very good person, because he protected the orphanages from criminals during the day and defeated all the monsters during the night. While others succumbed to their desires upon obtaining powers they did not deserve, he used them to help others. Nur taught him a good lesson, because Dazai considered him a failure due to his own arrogance. The children run to thank him for his help, while he rejoices for having met them. With that, he is transported back to his world, where Nur asks Dazai where he thinks he went. He replies that he does not know. Elsewhere, he awakens in his world in the middle of the street, in his wheelchair. By his side is someone dear, who extends their hand to him and calls him Sato. He begins to cry and stands up. On the other hand, we see Seiken, who is singing a song. Her companion asks if she found out about Kaibara, in addition to warning that Sengoku is doing very poorly in the desert. Since the fortresses of the dwarves have a reputation for being impenetrable, they underestimated the allies of Hushin, the Mage of Storms, who ended up being a stronger ally than they expected. After that, we see a carnage happening in the desert, where the dwarves face the hordes of the former Dark Lord. Isha fights with Wolf because he is drinking alcohol instead of defending the city, since supposedly he is the ruler. Wolf asks her to relax, because that title was placed by the people. In reality, he is just a simple priest. He notices that the fallen angel of misery initiates his attack, and a horde of lizards begins to move. Wolf warns Doran to take his forces to the east side, but the chief tells him to shut his mouth and stay there just watching, because he does not intend to obey his orders. The elder defeats several lizards, warning that if they want it for his head, they will have to exert themselves more. They begin to run, and Wolf notices that he did this on purpose, and takes advantage of the moment to use his wind magic, creating a tornado that eliminates a good amount of lizards. The fallen angel of misery retreats with his troops, and Wolf tells Isha that it is not necessary to pursue them, and that the best thing is to retreat as well. Isha notices that Dazai's coffin is in the center of the hurricane, and wonders what he is doing in that place. Once it is night, the dwarves toast for having defeated the army of the Seven Fallen. They comment that the fallen otherworlders are the church's problem, so they owe them one for having corrected their mistakes. Wolf approaches and requests that they do not speak ill of his boss, since he has many things to take care of. The important thing is that they managed to defeat the fallen angels without his help, all thanks to the effort of the powerful dwarves. Doran comments that he also did not do so poorly for a weak elf, therefore he thinks that he deserves his respect. After that, they continue celebrating. On the other hand, we see Tama and Nurse stuffing themselves with food. Isha comments to Annette that she did not expect to see her around there, and she comments that many things happened in the desert, and that when they went to look for their master, he was inside the hurricane. Fortunately, he is fine. At that time, Dazai appears and asks if that can be called luck. He says that he had the misfortune of being inside that coffin, and because of that he remains alive. And the worst part is that he now no longer has his dear bed. Annette tries to motivate him, warning that soon she will buy a new coffin for him. At that moment, Wolf greets Annette and comments that it had been a long time since he last saw her. The current mascot of Dazai observes the mascot of Wolf, and he becomes enchanted. Wolf apologizes to Dazai for having hit him with his tornado. He replies that he should apologize for not having killed him properly. Even so, he gives thanks for having made him experience a new near-death experience. Wolf asks for forgiveness for his mistake of war, and Annette is surprised to see war, and she already reveals that that country is at war with one of the seven fallen angels. Upon hearing this, Tama boasts, saying that she defeated one of them in Grom, but Wolf asks if she is certain of that, or if perhaps the fallen angel was just weak. Tama becomes irritated and replies that he must not underestimate her, because her party is very strong. Furthermore, her master has the ability to send fallen otherworlders back to their world. Wolf comments that the Pope is interested in that ability, but doubts very much that they need it. No matter how hard someone tries, his magic is the most powerful. Isha comments that he has already drunk too much, but Wolf warns that she can rest assured, as they themselves will take care of the seven fallen angels. After that, he leaves and requests that they stay out of it. The others feel bothered and comment that Wolf is the Mage of Storms, one of the most powerful mages in the world, and that not even the seven fallen angels can rival his magic and intellect. Meanwhile, the fallen angel of misery returns to the castle of the Dark Lord, where he warns his companions that on the next day he will personally go to battle, since he does not intend to be defeated again. However, the other says that it would be better to leave that to the women, and that he has already sent to the desert someone who knows the Mage of Storms best, the fallen angel of avarice. In the streets, Dazai asks Milos if he misses the small mascot of Wolf, and he says yes. Dazai comments that unrequited love is the best thing that exists, and that he should enjoy the anguish. But Milos becomes irritated and begins to bite him. This causes Dazai to decide to help him in search of his love, since in a certain way they are similar. They are two foolish men wandering the world in search of a woman. He wonders what they should call his beloved. As a female version of him, they could call her Familos. Milos does not like that at all, but Dazai does not care, and speaking of which, they find Wolf accompanied by Familos, who are surrounded by women. Milos becomes excited upon seeing her, but Wolf and Familos withdraw. Dazai comments that Wolf seems to be quite popular among the girls, in comparison to Milos, but he must not be sad, because a man must fight until the woman he likes looks at him. They follow him secretly until Wolf arrives at a house where he tries to speak with someone. but that person just ignores him. Dazai comments that he is just like Milos, someone in search of his beloved, so he decides to withdraw, since it is not right to continue spying. The next day they inform King Doran that the enemy is attacking through the dunes of the east of Gelb, and the youngsters decide to fight. Doran recommends that they remain calm, as they are only guests, and he himself will give the proper response to the 7 fallen angels. They gather with their men and begin a fierce battle once again, with Wolf providing support from a tower. Suddenly they notice something approaching, and are shocked to see an enormous black dragon, which is attacking with a powerful laser beam that sweeps everything. The dwarves become frightened, and Isha recognizes that it is Jade, the legendary dragon of darkness. Wolf comments that it is a pity he now serves the 7 fallen angels, but even so he is going to finish off everything. Doran notices that the one who is controlling him is not the fallen angel of misery, but Wolf replies that that does not matter. Whoever it is, he will defeat them. Upon realizing that it is the fallen angel of avarice, he stands paralyzed and asks why she is there. She replies that she has pending business with him, and calls him master. Isha tries to finish her off, but ends up being weakened by the girl's power, while she grabs Wolf and takes him away, promising that she will return to finish off everyone. Doran becomes worried and asks what is happening. Later they explain everything to the youngster. Isha wonders why that girl called Wolf master. Doran is very angry because his army is destroyed, and the lizards continue pressing them. Depending on Wolf harmed them greatly, and if it continues like this, the castle will fall. On the other hand, Dazai comments to Milos that Familos is very sad, because her lord is in danger, and asks what a man should do upon seeing a woman crying. He knows the answer and Milos dashes off, while Dazai follows him closely and thinks that Wolf has a complicated past. But his beloved must know something, therefore he goes to her house. He apologizes for the visit, but needs to ask some questions about Wolf. She opens the door and Dazai is confused to see that she is an elderly woman, commenting that this is something quite interesting. Meanwhile, Wolf became a prisoner of avarice. Upon awakening, she warns him that they are in the Temple of Triton, where they possess many memories together. There, she spent her youth, and Wolf is frightened, calling her by the name of Yuriko. At that moment, Wolf's guardians approach to help him, but she uses her ability while thanking Wolf, saying that now her abilities have improved thanks to him. Back with the group, Isha comments that this girl might be Wolf's disciple, since in the past he was the one who liked training otherworlders the most. But one day he changed out of nowhere and began to involve himself with alcohol. They do not know if this has to do with that disciple, but now the priority is to rescue him. She asks Doran to send his soldiers, but he replies that unfortunately he cannot do that. Tama says that in that case they will have to intervene. Annette comments that perhaps God placed them there to help them, and asks Dazai what he thinks about it. But he is not with them, and appears carrying the elderly woman on his back. Everyone remains in disbelief, but he asks to ignore him and continue the conversation. Annette becomes quite sad because he always appears with a different woman. Nur asks if adults should not be faithful, and Tama shouts at Dazai saying that he is a bad influence on the boy. The next day, the youngsters prepare for battle and thank Doran for the high-quality equipment. Dazai asks them to wait, since what he requested has not arrived yet. Tama asks if he needs equipment, while Annette continues crying, and Nur wonders what he is doing with the elderly woman on his back. Doran replies to Dazai that he ordered something very specific to be made, and his artisans are very confused, which is why they have not finished yet. Dazai criticizes him saying that they should not call themselves artisans, and already says that they need to hurry and save Wolf, but it will be difficult crossing the desert on foot. Tsuru appears, and Tama prepares to give him a beating, but he warns that he comes in peace, since Chief Nurse saved his life. He changed, and now protects the orphanage at night. In addition to having opened a bus company, Tsuru shows his broken ability, and upon touching a tiger he ends up transforming into a vehicle. Everyone becomes happy and climbs in, but when it is Dazai's turn, Tsuru tells him to go to hell, and orders that he go on foot for having killed the scorpions. Therefore everyone proceeded with the journey and left Dazai and the old woman alone. The girls ask Tsuru to turn back, but he replies that he will not do that by any means. Dazai takes a fragment of his coffin, and comments that it was the best means of transportation of all. Milos asks to go look for Wolf to make Familos fall in love with him, but Dazai tells him to shut his mouth because there is nothing left to do. The elderly woman begs for them to take her to her Lord Wolf. Dazai, upon seeing her eyes, comments that it is strange, because until now she had not said a word, and says that it is quite foolish of him to let his quest for love get in the way of other people, but that this will be a good seed for a story. So he extends his hand to her and decides to go in search of Wolf. Meanwhile, the youngsters arrive at the temple and find priests fallen on the ground, surrounded by a negative magic. Annette tries to touch one of them, but her friend stops her, saying that there are traces of magic in them, and that they will have to deal with that later. And first they need to enter the temple, since the otherworlder is certainly inside. Upon entering, they find Wolf hanging in the middle of the room. Isha asks who the otherworlder is, and she replies that her name is Yuriko, and that Wolf was her tutor, but now she is known as the Angel of Avarice. She recommends that they withdraw, as that matter is between her and Wolf. She invokes an army of zombies, and the group prepares to fight. The skeletons advance, while Wolf begs Yuriko to stop. She replies that he must not hesitate before the enemy, since that was what he himself taught her. Everyone fights with much grit. Annette protects with her shield, Isha attacks with a beam of massive destruction, and Tama eliminates several skeletons with her lion strike, commenting that armor is very cool. The skeletons rise once again, and Yuriko says that the battle will not end until all of them fall. That is her objective and her gift of avarice. The skeletons will not stop until they fulfill their goal. Isha falls and asks what happened between her and Wolf. Surely he was a good master, and there must be no reason for so much hatred. But with a macabre gaze she remembers the past, where she was exerting herself with a flower, and Wolf said that she was trying very hard. He comments that he already imagined her ability would not be very useful in combat. Therefore he said that she should not face the Dark Lord alone, as she was an otherworlder, and recommended that she lead a normal life in that world. She refused, because everyone was summoned to that world to defeat the Dark Lord, and she was determined to fulfill that objective. Wolf understands her and says that one day her strength will blossom, but asks her not to exert herself too much. He truly was a good teacher at the time he trained her. The few days they had were quite satisfying, until the day that person appeared. Since her arrival her master changed, for since she had much talent he began to concentrate only on her, and stopped paying attention to his previous student. Even so she continued training without rest, but not to defeat the Dark Lord, rather to make her Lord Wolf look at her once again. When she went to show her progress, she saw only her master praising his new heroine greatly, saying that she was the person he had been waiting for. And she suffered deeply. This was the reason her power blossomed, and she ended up absorbing the new favorite student. Wolf regretted it, while Yuriko just took the girl's ribbon and went away crying black tears. At that moment she absorbs all the skeletons, and says that when she was consumed by desire, she ended up eliminating an innocent person, and now she is not worthy of being human, and what is left for her is to stay at the rock bottom. Wolf is frightened upon seeing the enormous creature, and asks the youngsters to step back, but Yuriko desires for everyone to die. At that moment Dazai appears. He is in a mobile mechanical coffin. He arrives at high speed, drifting all over the place, saying that he had requested a bed as transportation, but the talent of the nation of artisans was impressive. He apologizes to the group, and asks if he is interrupting something. Then he approaches Yuriko and comments that they truly resemble each other quite a bit. At that moment Milos appears carrying the elderly woman, and Yuriko upon seeing her is quite surprised, realizing that it is Hikari. Dazai says that he finished writing the story of the younger sister, and now it is time to write her story. The group does not understand anything of what is happening. Therefore Dazai speaks with Yuriko, and says that her younger sister told him everything. They were a very close-knit family of 3, and she had been sick since she was small, and Yuriko was always by her side taking care of her. Hikari's illness always grew worse, but Yuriko never abandoned her. She was always by her side taking care of her. Dazai says that in his eyes she is like a holy mother. Her kindness surprises him, but she becomes even more irritated, and invokes several skeletons commanding him to be quiet. The skeletons point their swords at him, but the group finishes off all of them. He tells Hikari to forgive him, but he cannot die before writing her story, because he is nothing but a writer. The elderly woman begs him to stop because she knows very well that this is not what she wanted. But Yuriko replies that she knows nothing, and in reality she always hated her. Because of her fault, she lost her youth, which is why she was very happy upon arriving in that world, since she could finally live her own life. But she appeared again and took everything from her once more. When that happened, she swore that she would never allow her to get in her way again, as she is very greedy and will never give up anything she desires. Dazai is deeply moved and asks what else she wants. She becomes irritated and tells him to shut his mouth when Wolf tries to attack him or places himself in front, receiving the blow and ends up being affected by the curse, aging just like Hikari. He apologizes to Yuriko for not knowing that she felt that way, but Dazai requests that he not involve himself, as he is writing, and he only disrupts the story of love he wants to tell. He asks Wolf to stay out of it, and asks Yuriko what she truly wants. She is startled and tells him to get away. Dazai receives a direct blow, but continues walking, saying that he is a writer, and wants to write about what she truly feels. At that moment the skeletons disappear, and she reveals to Dazai what she truly desired. In a memory we see that she was trying to tell her father that that was the day of her graduation ceremony, but he interrupts her and hands a bow to her younger sister. He hopes that she gets better soon so that they can go out together. Afterward he says goodbye because he needs to work, and asks Yuriko to take care of her. Yuriko feels sad because she cannot live her own life. Upon leaving, the father asks the sister to close the window because there is too much light. But when he notices that her sister was sleeping, Yuriko puts on her uniform and goes to school. When she returns home, she notices that the light is on and runs to her sister's room, where she finds her father conversing with the doctor. She asks how her sister is doing, but her father slaps her across the face and fights with her for having gone out to have fun instead of taking care of her sister, and says that if her sister had died, the fault would be hers. At that moment, he takes off the ribbon she was wearing and approaches Hikari, saying that there is no problem, because now he is with her. Yuriko could not bear that any longer and left the house when the truck hit her. She only wanted to be noticed, but on that day her desire almost killed her sister. In this other world, she made the same mistake. She is not a good sister, just a greedy and despicable person. Dazai says that she only wanted attention, and there is not a single person in the world who does not desire that. That does not make her greedy, just someone with difficulty expressing herself. At that moment, Hikari embraces her and apologizes for everything she went through. Dazai asks Yuriko if she knows why her sister ended up in that world. In a memory, Hikari was waiting for her sister. The days passed and she continued waiting until one day she left the house crying because she had lost hope in a world without her sister, and ended up being hit by a car. And even now, as an elderly woman, she followed to that place just to be able to see her again. Wolf observes everything and thinks that he is a failure as a master. He remembers the moment when Hikari arrived in that world, when Yuriko ran to her asking about her illness. But upon seeing her well, she only cried with happiness. After a while, Hikari requested Wolf to make her stronger so she could face the Dark Lord and allow her sister to live freely in that world. He accepted, but asked why so much effort, and she revealed that she felt she had stolen her sister's life, which is why she wanted her to be happy. They always loved each other, and he did not realize it. At that moment, Dazai uses his gift and envelops everything with his power, saying that it is a wonderful love story, and that he is not worthy of giving an end to such a beautiful story. Upon tearing out a page, Yuriko's power disappears, her sister becomes young again, and everything returns to normal. Isha comments that probably everyone returned to their world of origin, and Yuriko gives thanks and regrets all the problems she caused, thanking Wolf for allowing her to live her youth. The sisters return together to their world, where they will be able to start over. Upon awakening, Hikari comments to Yuriko that she had a very strange and long dream, and says that if she tells her, she will laugh. Yuriko requests that she tell her, since now they have all the time in the world. Meanwhile, the dwarves continue their fight against the lizards, until at a certain moment they begin to retreat. The dwarves begin to celebrate, but the king interrupts, saying that they cannot celebrate until they are sure that Wolf and the rest are safe. On the other side of the desert, someone who seems to be Seiken is walking. In the holy region, they inform the Pope that they managed to return the Otherworlder to her world, and it seems to be the same power described in Isha's report. The Pope becomes quite happy and comments that he seems to be the one they were waiting for, saying that Dazai is the Messiah of that world. Meanwhile, Wolf calls the group and warns that it is time to return to the castle. Tama comments that he did nothing, and now he is acting like the leader. At that moment, Nur observes Dazai and asks what is happening, and he replies that a new guest has arrived. The ceiling collapses, and before them appears the fallen angel of misery, who decides to finish them off personally because they have already defeated 2 of his companions. Wolf gives thanks for him having come personally, since he needed a good opportunity to show off. He attacks with his magic, and for a moment believes he has won. But Misery reveals that his armor nullifies any magic. The pink-haired boy tries to help, but he is of no use. Tama also tries to use her divine techniques, but equally it has no effect. He invokes his sword and prepares to finish off everyone. But at that time Nur appears and destroys his sword. He observes Nur, and before leaving tells him to hone his skills. Tama smothers Nur with her breasts, in gratitude for him having saved her, and everyone else also gives thanks. Some time later, they return to the dwarves' castle, where they celebrate the right way. Isha comments to Wolf that, despite everything, she is happy that the Otherworlder sisters had a happy ending. Wolf is not so sure of that. After all, they were unhappy in the original world, and they were selfish, summoning them to also be unhappy there, receiving a mission. He questions whether the Pope's methods are truly correct. On the other hand, we see Seiken walking toward the castle, through a sea of corpses, while Dazai encourages Milos to speak with Familos, but upon trying, he did just like me and was rejected. While they walk, Dazai tries to console him, saying that sometimes, no matter how much you want someone, you will not succeed. At that moment, he becomes confused when he notices that by his side passes Seiken singing a song. She comments that she is very happy to see him again, and calls him master. Dazai becomes quite happy to see that she is well, and approaches to hold her hand, and requests that they commit double suicide together. He decides to jump from this height, to guarantee that nothing goes wrong, and asks her to accompany him. She releases his hand and says that he has changed quite a bit since the last time they saw each other. Now she can see light in his eyes, and he even seems more cheerful than before. And he is no longer the master she knew. Dazai replies that he did not change at all, and that he remains a vagabond just like before. But he is interrupted by his party, who say that Milos was very anxious and brought them to him. Upon seeing this, Saken comments to Dazai that he found something better than death, and that now she can no longer stay by his side. She leaves, but Dazai begs her to stop. Annette hears her name and is quite surprised when she discovers that that woman is Dazai's suicidal love. The next day, the party is at the smithy, thanking the old blacksmith for the equipment. He asks them to take good care of their things, but Dazai does not stop walking in circles. Worried, he says that Saken is wrong, and that he is not the least bit animated. He tries to commit suicide with the infinite tranquilizer, but even so he cannot die. Meanwhile, Nur takes the opportunity and asks the blacksmith to take a look at his father's sword, since he managed to break the sword of a fallen angel with it. Even though he is not very strong, the blacksmith is marveled upon seeing the sword, and tells Nur that it is too strong for him. But if he exerts himself, one day he can be worthy of it. At that moment, Dazai climbs into his mobile mechanical coffin, and the blacksmith comments that the vehicle needs adjustments, or he might end up killing himself. Dazai tries to commit suicide again, while the party goes running after him. Before leaving, Nur thanks Tsuru. In the demonic realm, we see one of the fallen angels commenting to Misery that he seems quite happy. Saken is with them, and the bartender comments that Misery is not the only one in a good mood among the 7 angels. Of the 7, now only 5 remain. Saken says that he is the least indicated to give an opinion on that, since he never leaves the castle. He agrees with her and asks how the meeting with her enemy went, or rather, with the man she loved. She reveals that he truly has the power to change the world, and is someone wonderful as always, which makes him worthy of her. And we discover that Sakin is the queen of the fallen angels. Meanwhile, Tama complains because that idiot Dazai disappeared again, and Annette is very worried because she does not know where he is, nor even where they are. At that moment, a villager appears and says that they are in the village of Jelb, the last stop of the hero who defeated the Dark Lord. He shows a statue of the hero fighting the Dark Lord, but Tama comments that it looks like he is running away from him. The villager explains that originally the hero was facing the monster, but suddenly a guy with a depressed expression appeared and gave him a blow as he passed. The girls become frightened upon realizing that the fault is Dazai's and decide to go after him. But the man says that there is nothing more to do, as that madman headed straight for the temple at the exit of the village, which is the only route to Horin, the forbidden land where the queen of the fairies lives. The girls become quite worried, but the elder says that they do not need to worry, as nobody can enter Horin without passing the trials. Meanwhile, Dazai hears a strange voice that says that he will not manage to overcome the trials and that the best thing is to turn back and leave. Dazai closes himself inside his coffin and commands the voice to stop speaking in his mind. The first trial is that of strength, but Dazai manages to pass with a single blow. The trial of courage and intellect are also overcome. The elder comments that he will probably end up returning, since only the hero who defeated the Dark Lord managed to complete all those trials. Annette asks what would happen if her master managed to pass, but Nur and Tama say that Dazai certainly will not succeed. But Dazai, with great luck, ends up being transported to the Queen of the Fairies, becoming the second human to visit her. Dazai thinks that he died and ended up in paradise. For me, this would be the perfect paradise. Two fairies named Ilulu and Solulu warn that he is in Horin and command him to bow before the queen and come down from her balloons. But the lucky fellow begins to take advantage of the situation, throwing his tranquilizers and catching, which leaves the fairies quite irritated. Solulu attempts to attack him, but the queen stops her and introduces herself as Beraz, the queen of the fairies. She says that she grants protection to those who reach her, since the fairies desire the peace of the world, and he must accept this and help fulfill that desire. She asks Dazai what is necessary to save the world, whether it is trusting others or having absolute power. Dazai replies that it is option C, trusting someone who abandoned him, and now he just wants to die. Solulu fights with him for not fulfilling the queen's desire, but Dazai insists that he just wants to die, while they ask him once again to save the world. Now that he has lost his beloved Sakin, the peace of the world no longer matters to him, and it is better that those who are suffering continue to suffer, and that all who must fall. The girls wonder who this man is. Beraz says that he is special, because he already has the protection of Esmeralda, and she is someone very sincere and honored, which is why she wonders why she chose this man. She asks Dazai directly what blessing he received from Esmeralda. He replies that she made his pills become infinite and asks if she wants some, throwing them toward her chest. Solulu decides to finish him off, while Dazai just gives thanks. That crazy one begs her queen to expel him once and for all. The queen says that once the man considered a hero arrived and received her blessing, but failed and did not bring peace to the world. Now Zauberberg finds itself in an even worse condition. The elves of the north who call themselves El Shaddai, who observe everyone. The 7 fallen humans who defeated the ruler of the Draconians, in addition to several other otherworlders who do not differentiate good from evil. Therefore, this world is a complete chaos. Those of a righteous heart who only make righteous decisions can no longer do anything. She doubts that the presence of this man is a mistake. The current world brought him for some reason. She grants her blessing, saying that his beloved, and he must reunite at the end of his journey. She requests that he save the world, but hopes that he lives a little longer and continues his journey. Dazai only thinks about reuniting with Sakin and thanks the queen for trying to cheer him up. And she gives him a farewell gift, saying that upon blowing the whistle, the fairies will lend their strength. After that, she sends him back. Solulu complains and asks why she gave her strength, but the queen just laughs. On the other hand, Annette is very worried, while Nur asks if the master is going to travel the world in search of the person who rejected him. Annette refuses to accept this because his journey cannot end like this. But she is interrupted by an explosion. Dazai appears and regrets having made them wait. The elder becomes very angry when he sees that Dazai left the statue even worse than before. But Dazai uses the whistle and invokes Solulu, and she becomes startled upon seeing everyone. He asks for help to fix the statue, but she complains. Upon being observed by Beres and Ilulu, she has no choice but to begin fixing the statue. On the other hand, Isha complains because the party left without saying goodbye, and asks Wolf if they should not take Dazai to the Pope. But he replies that that does not matter, and that the best thing to do is not to interfere. The Pope comments that that world expects something from him, and wonders if it will be peace or chaos. In any case, the destiny of that world has been entrusted to him. Meanwhile, Dazai continues his journey, but now the girls suffer carrying that heavy vehicle. It is a miracle that he is willing to walk this time, motivated to continue his journey, and thus the anime ends. Do not forget to leave that like, subscribe, and comment truck. I am not a robot, and a kiss.